Alright guys, so there can be no doubt that the FDL-3 is one slick shooter. Iterative design taken to its third level and refined down into a pretty sweet blaster. So this is my, I guess, Founders Series FDL-3 in semi-auto mode. It's a full length with all filamentum. It was not in semi-auto mode. It was not. It was in burst fire mode, I think firing 2 at once. So this is crazy sweet. But the one thing that I really didn't like about the 3 was its closed source nature. Well, no longer. The FDL-3 is now completely open source. So you know that we absolutely had to give it the arcane treatment. That is everything from ultra high quality filaments to crazy high resolution, high layer laminate build. And you know the one big downside to 3D printed blasters is that they don't like heat so much. So as much of this incredible new filament that Prusa sent over for us to test as we could possibly cram into the build. We've got some amazing, I think it's called Carmine Red at this point, PETG from Prusa. I can't wait to print that. And if we're gonna do the whole thing in Prusament anyway, we might as well do the whole thing on our Prusa Mark III. So let me show you just how simple that process is. Okay, so this is my Prusa Mark III. His name is Renfield. Like all good mad scientists, I needed an assistant named Renfield. And to show you all of these parts being printed would take 240 hours of time-lapse footage because of the high resolution that we print at. Everything gets a little bit slower. So instead, you get a little bit of time-lapse on one of these pieces. And I just want to show you one of my favorite features of the Prusa Mark III, which is how remarkably easy and stable its pause is, and because the pausing and the loading and the unloading of it can all be done more or less automatically, it is really easy to change colors and do two-tone printing without any extra nonsense. No muss, no fuss, no problem. So you can see here, it's currently printing in the gorgeous Prusa Galaxy Black. I told it to pause. I kind of peel that one little string off, and then I unload the black filament up top there and then load in the Prusament Silver. Now the Prusament Silver used to be a test color filament that came with all the printers, but I find that it has an amazing metallic sheen, and again, it's so easy to prime this, load it, and you'll see some should squiggle out here pretty soon from the nozzle. And there it goes, which means that we are ready to turn all of that text and that sweet Drac logo into Prusament Silver using the same exact blend and brand of PLA, especially one mated to the printer like this gives you ultra consistent color swap here, and means that this is stronger than it would be like painting it. So this is actual silver filament, so I've changed the color of the top, say, I think 0.3, 0.4 millimeters here, and so it's quite good. You just have to be careful to kind of pull that last bit out as it extrudes, as it moves down. And here you'll see that we're going to crank out a full two-tone side plate print, but I just wanted to go out of my way in this video to thank Prusa for all of their support of the channel. This robot in particular is so much more efficient and smarter than Igor, which is my dummy robot, and really helps me know that I'm not going to waste any filament, particularly when it's crazy nice, crazy expensive filament. And I thought that this part of the video would be interesting. I wanted to do at least one print time lapse, but I would never make you sit through more than one part if I wasn't making them like crazy fast. And I also don't pause while I time lapse, so you do have to watch the bed move. But overall, just an amazing company to be networked with and working with. Really appreciate the support from Prusa, providing both the robot and the filament for this build, giving us an exclusive look at the Carmine Red filament, and in general just being really easy to communicate with. It was also great meeting them at the Midwest RepRap Festival. This feature never gets old. Super easy print removal. Crazy cool. So that was a lot of talking about 3D printing. How are we actually going to give this thing a beating heart? Where do we get the brushless motors? Where do we get the microcontrollers, the speed controllers, etc., and so forth? Well, luckily Project FDL sells hardware kits. You could part all of these things out if you wanted to, but at least for me, and how much time I have right now, it was way easier to just go to their website, buy one of these hardware bundles, and then luckily, and this won't apply to everyone, they only live like 30 minutes away, so I went workshop to workshop so that I could build it step by step in their studio and show you exactly how I breathed life into Arcane 1. Let's go. Alright, so the first thing you have to do is pull the cable attached to your switch all the way through. The print has natural corridors for this, and then you just snap that switch into place, make sure it's nice and snug, then fit your trigger in and start greasing up all of those cogs and wheels. It should be very obvious where the cogs and wheels kind of align, but the main trigger, the thing that articulates your pusher for darts, snaps into place, and then just plenty and plenty of silicone grease all over these guys. And then you're actually going to want to put a little bit of back pressure on here and then place that large gear inside, sandwiching it all in the sort of gear assembly prints with the 2 long black screws, using those together to kind of cinch it tight. Once you're happy with that back compression and it's nice and sloppy, then it's time to flip your FDL Wii over and install that first handle scale. This is going to hold the whole thing together with 1 medium screw at the bottom of each side. Now, make sure that you have your rev trigger in there. I like to add a little extra spring tension in there because I like a really responsive trigger. Then you're going to take 2 of those long silver screws and try and thread them through, then give up immediately and beat them in with a hammer. Now this part's really simple. Both the voltmeter and your on-off switch get kind of pressed through, one from the back, one from the front, into the back plate. Then it gets really complicated really fast. The potentiometer goes through the front from bottom to top, then the rev trigger goes back into the potentiometer, then the voltmeter and on switch go through the same hole as the rev trigger and then out the front hole for the potentiometer. All of these have guides and channels, and you can kind of watch how my hands are threading them through to make sure that they ultimately wind up. You can even see that head scratch of, gosh, I hope this is right. Then the base plate holds the whole thing in place, and your speed controlling switch comes out through the bottom. Now, to hold that whole unit together, you're going to need 2 medium black screws. You're going to just cinch that guy together. Man, it feels like I'm saying cinch a lot. Now, to make sure that all of your hard work stays where your hard work should stay, you're going to do the right side panel first, flat side back, and then 3 of those small screws all along the bottom to hold everything. Then a little bit of wire management because it's starting to get out of hand already, both literally and figuratively. But our PC building days catch right on up, and we can do the second panel, same as the first, 3 more short screws along the bottom once all those wires are comfortably through their channels and not interfacing or getting pinched between the 2 plasticky bits. Now it's time to start working on our motors. The motors are brushless and held together with 4 motor screws. The motor screws are obvious and they need a dot of Loctite, but not too much like I did here. Then you're going to need a napkin to clean it off like a dummy. So you're going to mount the motor wires so that they're directed towards the channel. Again, the prints themselves almost have the memory marks you need, except they're not memory marks, they're just actual marks that are in the prints to kind of guide those motor wires through to their individual speed controllers. You have to repeat that twice. I got much better at doing the Loctite the second time around. I like to put the screws through first. Then you're going to come in and remove the nut from your motors. Now, don't worry about that nut. We're going to put it right back soon. But first we have to gently place our flywheels on, make sure that they're aligned with the funky kind of cutouts in the flywheel. You can see Jesse's hand sneak in and point me in the right direction there because I really wanted to make sure that this part was right. Then tighten it, make sure it's really snug, but not too snug. I know that's a lot like a pinch of sugar, which is not a real measurement, but you'll know it when you feel it. And then flat side of the rear down, and we've got a flywheel kind of housing here. Of course, you're going to put the dart hole in the back and the muzzle hole in the front. Then you kind of line those up and slam 2 of the long screws up front, because again, we don't want this to get away from itself, especially if you're testing the polarity of your motors to make sure that you got them right. So then you can put the magwell in from behind. It's very important to keep the motor and the ESC cables in place. Then 3 more of those long boys, again hammering them home once we've aligned that magwell. This PETG is really, really great stuff, guys. Then we're going to put a lock nut on the other side of each one of those long screws because this is where all of the motion is happening in the blaster, and we want to make sure this whole unit stays together like the family in Lilo and Stitch. Then we're going to slide the board or the brain through the slot in the back, scoop the wires over the board at the top, pull the white wires over the sides, put the ECS in the slots, and then the XT60 will slot right into those channels, ready for a battery later. Then you throw the cover on, and then 2 more of those long black screws, tightening that down because the cable management was tricky. My head is covering it. So then you're gonna plug the ECS leads into the board, black wires always towards the back of the blaster. And then a little bit more cable management, trying to tuck those squirmy bits into those holes. This is where Coop would say giggity if he still did mods. Then we're going to set our snark aside so that we can use both of our hands to cinch this blaster together. This is where the 2 halves of the FDL platform meet. That's 2 small screws per side, kind of bringing them together. And this is a huge grin moment for me because it starts to look like a real blaster. Then we throw that back stock attachment point on, then bottom short, top medium, get those screws into place, and it's almost ready. Now we're slowly building our assembly here for the handguard, which conveniently has the primary magazine release. Then the secondary one is right up there on the mag well. To get that all to fit, we've got medium screws up front and then short screws in the handle, 1 per each side. And then with the handguard ready, it's starting to look really slick. Then put the spring in, pre-compress it while inserting the magazine release. If you've ever done an in-strike mod, that fiddling should be easy. Then use your short printed part to join those 2. And it's time to start putting on our cowls. Notice anything special about my cowls? They've got a bit of bite. Alright, now things are going to get complicated. The potentiometer, voltmeter, and power switch wires go through the slot in the back. Red and black wires go in the 2-pin closest to the left from the back, then the red wire to the right. Other 2-pin takes power switch wire, doesn't matter orientation. 3-pin wire goes in the 3-pin slot, white wire forward, and then it's time to turn it on and test for power. Then you're going to take 2 short screws each for top and bottom cowls, 2 medium screws for the grip, and then 2 short screws per each rail on top. Whew! Once all those screws are installed, you should be really close to having a complete blaster. Now, if you've noticed over the course of this video that my GoPro has been drifting ever so slowly to the right with each progressive jump cut, that's because it's been trying desperately to get out of this workshop the whole time, and down she goes. Alright, so hopefully you guys don't mind that my camera slowly drifted and then fell at the end of that build segment. But this is it. This is Arcane 1, complete, all stitched together, and Jesse was not only kind enough to walk me through the entire process, he gave me about an entire afternoon of his time just hanging out, but also making sure that this turned out absolutely perfect so that the guide is as accurate as it could possibly be for you. But also he had one surprise for me when I threw a battery in and powered it on. Are you ready? The microphone's right here, so I've turned it on like 80 times at this point, and it still just never gets old. Thanks so much, Jesse. That's really cool code. So, that aside, how does it shoot? Well, it's pretty slick. It's very snappy, and it's compact. It's snap-packed. Snap-packed to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. So, like its maker, it's thin and fast. How does it perform at war? Well, shoot. Three left. Oh. David's behind the barrier. Shoot, Jesse. Somebody shoot this kid. Up here. You both peel this way. Yeah, we just have to eliminate him.
Alright, you stay here. Amy, 3, 2, you left, me right. Let's go.
Ah, I gotcha. That's the only way to get people to watch war footage on YouTube, is to put it in a really interesting build and deliver it as well edited and as interestingly as I possibly can. Plus, we taught ourselves to do hit markers. You like that, YouTube? So that is the FDL-3, and now that they're open source, there's nothing to stop you from taking the files, tweaking them a little bit, ordering your own hardware kit, and making something really, really custom. I don't know if you noticed, but my guy has a little bit of bite here, thanks to Elusive 3D helping me out with that. And then just, I cannot stress enough, a huge, huge thank you to Prusa. This build would not have been possible without them. Being the first to get my hands on this crazy awesome Pet G. It feels great, it looks great in the light. It gives us a lot of built-in heat resilience for this little FDL Wii here, and just overall, like, the Prusament blends very well with itself. And then of course I did print the entire thing on a Prusa Mark III, so thank you to them for that. Like, definitely, if you're looking to break into 3D printing, I have a full video which I'll link in the end screen here about how to get into 3D printing for Nerf, but I will link to Prusa, the filaments used, the hardware kit, and the files all in the description box below, which should give you pretty much everything that you need. If you want to join us in the SE&C, if that war footage looked crazy slick to you, the SE&C link will be down there. And then that was a mock-up of the Foam Pro Tour, which is our hobby's definitive competitive Nerf tournament. It's happening this summer. There's still a couple of slots left to register your team, and prize support's going to be $3,000 this year. So if you want to make money doing the hobby that you love, come see us at EndWar 2019 and check out the FPT while you're there. Going all day Sunday with pickup games on the side if maybe super competitive isn't necessarily your thing, but I love this thing. If I was able to compete in the FPT, I would definitely have this dude holstered on my side. Much love, Nerf on. Drac out. Drac out.